Hello everyone. Say, it's time we take a look at our ancestors.
The Homo sapien is derived from many different evolutions of humans beforehand. Some examples being the Neanderthal, or the Homo erectus.
I won't make that joke. I won't make the joke!
Anyways, the human species is a fascinating one. I mean, our closest relative is that thing.
I'm going further into detail.
Ape Escape is a game about funny monkeys that do shit. Ape Escape, one of the PlayStation's magnum opus titles, was released to the masses on May 31st, 1999, here in North America.
Very interesting, since this game's developer was Japan Studio, a first-party developer for Sony.
Japan Studio is well known for making the Loco Roco, Patapon, and Gravity Rush series, as well as, of course, Ape Escape. Ape Escape, as the release date shows, was an insanely late PlayStation game. The PS2 had already been announced at this point. However, this game was to be a pseudo-tech demo for the PlayStation's new accessory at the time, the DualShock controller. Boasting vibration motors and 2 dog noses, this controller was a necessary addition to anyone's PlayStation setup. This controller was quickly supported right after launch, with most games giving the option for the expanded features of the DualShock, but not outright requiring them. However, there is one game that flat out needs the DualShock to even play, and that game was not the Emperor's New Groove. Instead, it was Ape Escape. Ape Escape cleverly uses both analog sticks for essential parts of the core gameplay. Instead of moving with the traditional D-pad, players would use the left analog stick to move about and use the right to use various gadgets to their advantage. Can't do that on a Mac Mini. The game's premise is as follows.
Oh, the apes are sentient.
Okay, rewind this a bit. Spectre, a well-known zoo animal, winds up with a prototype helmet made by the professor that is meant to increase the intelligence of a monkey.
This guy couldn't handle being smarter than a goddamn chimp.
Well, since the professor is an absolute buffoon, the helmet doesn't function as planned, and Spectre gains the destructive nature known as anti-good. He produces more helmets for all the other monkeys he is with and lets them run rampant. The professor, being the dumbass he is, makes a time machine at the same f***ing time as the stupid helmet. The monkeys all find out about this and want to wreak havoc in all sorts of time periods. They tie up the professor, along with his granddaughter/assistant, Natalie, and are attempting to figure out how to start the time machine. Jake and Spike arrive at the scene unaware of what's happening. The apes start up the time machine and suck Jake and Spike in with them.
I have no f***ing idea how, but Natalie and the professor both did not end up going back in time. Care to explain?
Whatever. The professor finds a way to communicate with Spike and tells him about Spectre's plan for world domination. 2 of his gadgets, the Stun Club and the Time Net, were also zapped back in time with him. These 2 gadgets are the bare essentials required for completing the levels, and if you really wanted to, you could forego the Stun Club entirely and only use the Time Net, since that's how you actually complete the levels. The Stun Club does exactly what it says. It stuns shit. The Time Net, however, could mean fucking anything. Well, what the Time Net does is send the monkeys that you capture back to the present so the professor can, I don't know, how about we'll say beat the shit out of. The Stun Club is also useful for protecting yourself from enemies scattered across the level that aren't descendants of the ape line. Further down the Ape Escape rabbit hole, you get more gadgets to assist you in catching these primates. The Water Net is essentially just the Time Net, but for aquatic purposes. It also helps Spike move quicker whilst underwater. The Monkey Radar is exactly what it sounds like. It's a big-ass satellite dish on an umbrella pole that senses where apes are by, I don't know, some whack-ass brain frequency. This gadget also gives you a live feed of that ape and some stats on it as well. The rowboat and tank are both grouped together in the manual, and might as well group them together here because they're super similar. They both control the same, requiring both of the analog sticks to steer the vehicles, sort of like oars on the rowboat, or the individual tracks on the tank. The tank, of course, being weaponized, is far more powerful than the rowboat, which, if it was weaponized, I would probably be 6 feet under. The slingback shooter, or as most sane people would call it, a slingshot, is literally just that, a slingshot. There are some different ammo types to choose from, but this is extremely helpful for taking out monkeys long range, or especially for busting up the vehicles that they drive. Next up is the Super Hoop. This is essentially a souped up hula hoop that can become a weapon when spun and also gives Spike a turbo boost when it's at full throttle. Next to last, we have the Sky Flyer. The Sky Flyer is a propeller that can boost Spike upwards to reach hard-to-reach places. Most of these gadgets, might I add, are useful in 100%ing the game, considering in early levels there are monkeys that can't be taken out until another gadget is acquired. And finally, we have the remote-controlled car. The RC car is a deployable vehicle that can squash enemies and pass through small areas that Spike cannot.
The entire game is very well put together, with a decent story and a very pleasant atmosphere. And, well, the voice acting isn't that good, but how good could it really get on the PlayStation 1? The game is a beautiful 3D platformer with very little wrong with it. But the controls! God, these controls are abysmal! The, quote, innovative use of the dual analog sticks is completely foreign to gamers nowadays. It doesn't even make sense. You'd think the right analog stick would control camera movement as it does in every other 3D platformer, but no! It controls which way you swing the stun club. And the face buttons, you'd think that those are used for simple attacks. No, it's just a mere selection mechanic. How up are these controls? That's nuts, man. This game was almost so perfect, but when they make the jump button R2, that really blows things out of the water. And also the voice acting. You can't forget the voice acting.